everyone, my name is Payanna and welcome to my book channel. And today's book is Shadow and Flame, which is the sequel to Onyx and Ivory by Mindee Arnett. So I read Onyx and Ivory a few weeks ago. I made a video about it. I'll link it all in the description. And I was quite looking forward to book 2 because the ending of book 1 led to all the main characters being, so Kate and Corwin and Bonner and what's her name, Sing, being almost exiled and sent away to the enemy kingdom where they were exporting all the people with magical powers, so the wilder people whose magical powers didn't correspond with the standards of magic of the kingdom, so the mage magic. These people were like elemental magic, and it turned out they were being rounded up and sent away to the enemy kingdom. Okay, so the idea was that the king of this country was trying to build an army of wilders in order to invade them. So at the end of this, Kate's plan, Kate being a wilder herself, her plan was to go there and free the wilders and try and get some form of legal recognition or at least peace for the wilders, so that they weren't going to be rounded up anymore and possibly tortured or put to death. Okay, so that's how book 1 ended. So I expected book 2 to be all about their campaign for freeing the wilders, but it actually takes place a year later. So the prologue for the book is Kate trying to free the wilders who are kept in this great big prison underground. And so some of the people who've been taken include her little brother and her mother-in-law, or her stepmother. I'm not good at family relations. So she, obviously she tries to find them first and free them first. However, when she tries to say to the wilders, look, you're free now, we've come to set you free, they refuse to leave. They can't leave this place, and she tries to drag her mother out. Not her mother, her stepmother, and her little brother. She tries to drag them out and force them to leave by manipulating their minds, but they keep saying, we can't leave, you don't understand, you don't understand. And this results in her little brother getting shot and falling off a ledge. Her stepmother then throwing herself over the edge after her son, and her assistant, who's the only one left, they actually do manage to drag her out, but despite this, both Corwin and Bonner also fall off the ledge. So basically, the book starts with pretty much everyone dying. Yippee. So, chapter 1, as I said, starts a year later, and we're told that there has been a war between the wilders and the people of the kingdom. So the people of Rhyme, there's been this great big war, which has ended by an agreement where the wilders now have their own city. So they are living in relative peace, and anyone who wants to come and live in this city comes to live in this city. And Kate is very much in charge. She is known as the Wilder Queen. She led the rebellion and won the war and many battles. She's a great warrior now. She's very, very, she has a very high standard. And she has various people working with her. So Sing, who has the ability to create gunpowder that allows guns to fire multiple rounds. They have revolvers, but with the technology they have, they can only fire one round. And Sign is the only person who knows how to create this special powder to fire multiple rounds. So she is essentially locked away at this point, because obviously being the only person in the entire kingdom who can do this, a lot of people are trying to get their hands on her. And her boyfriend has gone to be an ambassador to the main city of Rhyme. So yeah, it's a bit tense. Kate, who has the ability to read minds, also reads the minds of every single person who enters this city. So before they can allowed in, she kind of goes through their memories to see what they want, what their intentions are. And she gets pretty dark in this book, because she basically doesn't have any she doesn't take any chances, basically, let's say it like that. And so she will happily, if there's someone she is a bit suspicious of, she will pull out her revolver and shoot them in the head. And she did this with a person who had negative intentions. His intentions were to blow up the city, because he was part of this odd cult who believed in chaos. And the fact that now the Wilders were at peace with the kingdom meant that the war was over, and his religion didn't want that. He wanted to blow up this city. He was a terrorist. And she just pulled her gun out and shot him in the head. And a lot of people have issues with this because he hadn't done anything wrong yet. And so the argument is that she is becoming completely ruthless and basically not the person she used to be. And she interestingly, like, a lot of this is from her point of view. Like, it's either from her point of view or Corwin's point of view, the same as it was in the first novel. And she always finds ways of justifying this, which is interesting, because we get to really see the progression that has gone through her mind. She has gone from being this person who was full of self-doubt, everyone hated, to being someone with immense responsibility who has suffered great loss and is damaged. I thought her progression was interesting. She is a very different person in this novel, but you can tell how she became that person. So that was good. Now, I mentioned that every chapter is either from her perspective or Corwin's perspective, because yes, Corwin is still alive. And I really liked what happens to him in this novel. I thought it was really good. So he survives his fall. He has a terrible head injury, but he survives the fall, and he is sent to work in a mine. So he is just a faceless miner in very, very cruel conditions, who are mining these things called god tears, which are a source of magic for the enemy empire. Is it Siva? Yeah, Siva empire. And someone eventually recognizes him and takes him to the palace, and he wakes up in company of one of the princes and one of the princesses, and he is told that he is to marry this princess. And the idea of this is to create some kind of semblance of alliance between Rim and Siva by marrying one of the daughters of Siva to the Prince of Rhyme. And obviously in Rhyme they do not know that Corwin is still alive. They think he is dead. So his brother, with whom he had the trials to be king in the first book, is now king, officially. But Corwin's still around. So and then something really interesting happens, is there's this guy who essentially uses a magic potion to put Corwin under his control. So he makes him drink this thing. He becomes addicted to this substance, and also he has to obey this person. He cannot fight against it. And so he goes from like being treated in one very cruel way in a mine to be treated in another very cruel way, but in essentially a golden prison. So it's quite an interesting scenario. He goes through with the wedding, marries the princess, and quite interestingly, it turns out that she is also a prisoner of her status. and her father doesn't really care about her. They just want her to be a princess and procreate and do what a princess is supposed to do, and she can't do what she wants to do. And it gets dark. It gets very dark. Kate and Sing are tricked into going back to the capital city, and they get ambushed and captured by the king and sentenced to death. It all goes very wrong, and then the Seaver Empire invades them, accompanied by Prince Corwin and his new bride. So the politics of this were interesting, and the way the characters go about getting what they want, and just the manipulation of it. As I said, it gets very dark. I mean, the first book was already quite dark. You've got the night drake creatures, the day drake creatures, these kind of dragon-like monsters that come out at night. And the fact that the wilders are being rounded up and senselessly slaughtered. And then just the bad guy, the nameless one, who also comes back, obviously, in book 2. But again, the way he goes about getting his way is really quite fascinating. So all in all, I thought it was better than the first book. I actually enjoyed book 2 way more than book 1. Which was interesting because I actually did read reviews for this before I bought it, which is something I don't normally do. When I buy a book, I'm just like, okay, I want this one, I'm going to buy it. I'll either like it or I won't. And I saw a lot of people say that they didn't like it so much, but the ending was worth it. I honestly enjoyed it, especially everything that happens to Corwin. I thought that was fantastically well done. I did find the parts with Kate a bit boring at the beginning. Like, it does drag on a lot, and I understand that there's a lot to catch up on. A whole year has gone by, and it's all for, like, this is her new life now, this is who she is. But that, like, despite the fact that Corwin does have the biggest change, like, he goes from being the prince who is preparing for trials to be the king of an actual kingdom, to being a minor with a completely different name, who even goes as far as pushing his own identity out of his mind in order to survive, basically, in this new environment. But that takes a lot less time to put in place than Kate's new environment. So, I don't know, maybe there's something to poke at there. So yeah, the ending was worth it. I'm not sure about that, because the ending I did find a bit heavy going. A lot of stuff happens very quickly, and I did get a bit confused at one point. I don't know. But I thought the ending was okay, right? Don't get me wrong. The ending was perfectly okay. But I don't know if I would say the book is bad, but the ending's worth it. Like, I definitely don't agree with that. I thought the book was really good. Like I say, Kate's bits were boring at the beginning, but then it all gets moving and it all flows really well. And the ending is fine. Yeah. The only character I wish we kind of had more of, like a development, like at the end, is the princess, the Seaven princess that Corwin has to marry, because obviously they were forced to marry. Neither of them were consenting to it, but they had to do it. But I would like to know more about what happens to her after the end, because I did genuinely like her character. I thought she was really good. And yeah, I honestly, it was an entertaining duology, and I enjoyed it. That's all. That's really it. I thought the characters were interesting. The way they develop is interesting. The journey they go on, the progression, everything, and the world building also pretty good. So yeah, decent duology. Onyx and Ivory and Shadow and Flame by Mindee Arnett. And that's it for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.